All right, you guys, we have one last bit of news to cover. It's not exactly news. This is our last emailed question coming all the way from the Nerd Zone. Why do I use say it every time, Nerd Zone, every time that you have a comment or an email, I always introduce you as the Nerd Zone. I love it. I don't know, there's something about that that appeals to me. But the Nerd Zone sends in an email that says, let's have some Spidey fun. So I don't have news, but I'd like to start conversation. I like to start conversations about movies, as you can tell by the comment section. It's true. A lot of our comments get sent in by the Nerd Zone, and it is so helpful to have the Nerd Zone just like participate in this conversation, because that's what this channel is. Anyway, Nerd Zone says, now, as you can tell, I love Spider-Man, and since No Way Home, Spider-Man No Way Home, is out soon, that's right, it's coming out this December. Since No Way Home is coming out soon, I would like to hear Mike, that's me, talk about the canceled Spider-Man 4. If you know anything about it. Like I said, it isn't news as this is canceled, but it's some Spidey fun. Yeah, so if you guys don't quite know what it is that Nerd Zone's talking about, Spider-Man 4 was a movie that was it was greenlit, it was in production. They were not quite ready to start rolling cameras yet, but this film got put into so much turmoil and controversy that the whole thing got canceled, and Sony decided to reboot the Spider-Man franchise. And that indeed, I'm talking about the Sam Raimi incarnation of Spider-Man. I'm talking about the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. This is the Spider-Man wiki, which Wikipedia is always a little touch and go. Sometimes you kind of need to be careful what you read on Spider-Man wiki, or not just Spider-Man, on any Wikipedia page, but they've got pretty much all of their ducks in a row here, or spiders in a row, as they may say. So I'm just going to go ahead and start reading this from top to bottom. It's not that long, just to give you guys a little bit of context. Spider-Man 4 was the planned sequel to Spider-Man 3 for what would have been the fourth film in Sony Pictures' Spider-Man film series that was slated to release on May 6th, 2011. For a little bit of context, the film that came before, Spider-Man 3, came out in 2007, so it would have been another 4 years before we had a Spider-Man sequel. But neither here nor there, this is what's going on. Okay, just so you know. In spite of the lukewarm fan reception to Part 3, Spider-Man 3, which really nobody liked, its impressive box office score convinced Sony to attempt to make a fourth film. Yeah, so let me talk about that for a second. So Spider-Man 3, directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire, I think its production budget was something like $200 million, $230 million, something like that. Tobey Maguire was under contract for 3 films, starting before Spider-Man 1, as was Kirsten Dunst, but their contracts came due after Spider-Man 3, which allowed them to say, I want more money! So with Spider-Man 3, it was made for $200 million, $230 million, somewhere through there, right? But it grossed $890 million. That's a lot of money. It's just short of $900 million, which it did pretty good. It turned a big profit. So of course Sony wants to make a fourth Spider-Man movie. Of course they do. So let's jump in. What happened? Development began in 2008, which was the year after Spider-Man 3 came out, with Raimi attached to direct and the core cast of the previous films to return. Come 2019, however, Raimi dismissed the rumors that all 3 films were being made, instead confirming that only the fourth was under development. So this is confusing. The way that this article is written, it's a little confusing. There were rumors that Sam Raimi was working on a brand new trilogy. So there was Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, which was done in the books. It was in the can. People had seen it. It had already come out. It was finished. And then there were rumors that Sam Raimi, as he started working on Spider-Man 4, people started saying, oh, he's writing a new trilogy. There's going to be Spider-Man 4, 5, and 6. To which Sam Raimi has always denied. He's always come out and been like, no. It's just Spider-Man 4. We're solely working on Spider-Man 4 here. He goes on. So Sam Raimi dismissed the rumors that the trilogy, the second trilogy was being made, instead confirming that there was only a fourth under development. Sony hired James Vanderbilt in October of 2008 to pen the screenplay after contracting David Koepp, the writer of the first film. So David Koepp, an incredible, excuse me. David Koepp is an incredible screenwriter. He wrote the first 3 screenplays. He wrote my favorite movie of all time, Jurassic Park. He works very closely with Steven Spielberg. David Koepp is known, I think, I don't know, it doesn't matter. David Koepp is known for making excellent screenplays. So he was contracted to write Spider-Man 4. There was some weird stuff going on, and there was a writer's strike, and eventually he was let go. So they got James Vanderbilt to kind of like step in, right? So the script underwent further revision by playwright David Lindsay Abair, and once more by Gary Ross in October of 2009. So, just again for context, we had David Koepp to write Spider-Man 4. There was a writer's strike. After the writer's strike was over, David Koepp was either let go or time constraints or other contracts. He just wasn't able to work on the film. So they got James Vanderbilt, and then they got Gary Ross. Was that his name? Then they got David Lindsay, and then they got Gary Ross. So now this Spider-Man 4 film has just passed through 4 different writers. If you know anything about like writing a film or like getting things ready for studio production, that's a lot of writers, which means that's a lot of opinions and fractured. Ultimately, it means it's the story has been fractured a little bit here and there. You know, to have one singular vision is no longer what's going on. Excuse me, we have a last-minute visitor. Well, hello there, Minerva. The Reverend Minerva Radcliffe is here to give her thoughts on Spider-Man 4, the canceled film. Minerva, what do you think? Yeah, I thought so too. Minerva was not the biggest of fans of Spider-Man 4 being canceled. All right, so let's jump in here. Let's jump back into this Spider Wiki. On the subject of villains, Raimi considered showcasing the transformation of Dr. Kirk Connors into the Lizard, with Dylan Baker reprising his role. If you remember, Kirk Connors was played by a completely different actor than it was Spider-Man 2, I believe. Completely different actor than what they ended up going with in The Amazing Spider-Man. All right, okay, I've spent a lot of time going through this and giving context and going back and forth. We're spending a lot of time. We're spending a lot of time on this. This is the meat and potatoes right here. Sam Raimi admitted to being exhausted with a tremendous amount of delegation needed to make a gigantic movie like the Spider-Man films. However, it ultimately came down to an inability to get together a suitable story that led him to pass on a 4th installment of the blockbuster franchise. Quote, "It really was the most amicable and undramatic of breakups. It was simply that we had a deadline and I couldn't get the story to work on a level that I wanted it to work. I was very unhappy with Spider-Man 3 and I wanted I wanted to make Spider-Man 4 to end on a very high note. The best Spider-Man of them all." But I couldn't get the script together in time due to my own failings. And I said to Sony, I don't want to make a movie that's less than great. So we shouldn't make this picture. Go ahead with your reboot. There's context there. I'll give that in a second. Go ahead with your reboot, which you've been planning anyway. And then the Sony chairman, Amy Pascal, you may recognize her name, said, thank you. Thank you for not wasting the studio's money, and I appreciate your candor. So we left on the best of terms. Both of us trying to do the best thing for the fans, the good name of Spider-Man and Sony Studios. So you guys, that's the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to cover. Sony, like in production of Spider-Man 4, there were so many production problems and hiccups and reportedly, allegedly, this is not confirmed, but allegedly, Tobey Maguire wanted $50 million to come back and reprise his role as Spider-Man in Spider-Man 4. Allegedly. Woof! That's a hefty price tag right there. Anyway, so there were so many problems. Sony could see the writing on the wall, so they started planning a reboot. If Spider-Man 4 doesn't work out, we need to have something, because let's not forget, if Sony doesn't make X amount of Spider-Man movies in X amount of time, the rights of Spider-Man revert back to Marvel Studios, or they go back up for grabs, right? And at that point, Disney has the money to buy the rights back. Or somebody else, right? Somebody else has the option to get those rights back. And so it's a huge cash cow for Sony. They want to hang on to the rights of Spider-Man. You know, they rightfully got them. They deserve them. I don't know if they deserve them, but they got them fair, right? Fair play. So they have to make these movies. And the whole thing fell apart. Then we got The Amazing Spider-Man, which was... I liked it. It was fun. I really liked Amazing Spider-Man 2. A lot of people don't. I dug it. I thought it was pretty good. Let's go back into NerdZone's email here. NerdZone says that you would like to hear my thoughts about the canceled Spider-Man 4 film. If I do, in fact, know anything about it. Yeah, it's just a little bit of Spider-Man fun. Here's the thing, NerdZone. Time gives us the benefit of a better hindsight, right? So we get to see through the past a little bit more clearly, having, what is this now, like a little over 10 years have passed? A little more than 10 years have passed since this particular film was canceled. At the time that it was canceled, I think everybody was bummed out. I think Spider-Man 3 ended on such a sour note with fans, even though it made the most out of any of the other Spider-Man movies. It still ended on kind of a sour note for fans and critics. It's just not a good movie. It's not. Sam Raimi knew it. He's been talking about that for the past decade and how it was not a good movie. So I understand Sam Raimi wanting to redeem himself. I understand Sam Raimi wanting to end the franchise on a high note. Spider-Man 3 just was bad. It was just a bad movie. Had some solid bones to it, but too much studio interference. So what are my thoughts? Ultimately, I'm glad that we didn't get a Spider-Man 4. I really dug The Amazing Spider-Man, directed by Mark Webb, starring Andrew Garfield. I really dug that movie. Maybe not as much as the first. It's just a different flavor. It's like, you know, Christian Bale being Batman, or now Robert Pattinson being Batman. It's just a different flavor. This is not good. Like, Andrew Garfield taking over the reins as Spider-Man, being directed by Sam Webb, is not going to be the future of Spider-Man. It's just going to be a thing that happens. Just like the Ninja Turtles reboot. Everybody knows I'm a huge Ninja Turtle fan, and the Michael Bay produced Ninja Turtle movies were complete trash. I don't care. And this is not just... It sounds like I'm just being dismissive because I have my opinions. You guys, those were bad movies. I'm not saying you can't like them. You can enjoy them all you want. And that's fine. There are plenty of terrible movies that I love. But I think it's important to recognize that those were bad movies. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, is a bad movie. I love it. I love it. But it's a bad movie. I think we need to make that delineation, right? Yeah, so Spider-Man 4, in hindsight, I'm glad that it never happened. I'm thankful that it never happened. Because look at what we have now. If Spider-Man 4 had happened, it would have been moderately successful. As it was, it would not have been successful. But if it had happened, I think that means that Sam Raimi would have corrected the script issues and that he would have been able to produce something that he wanted. We also know that he was building up for like a Sinister Six type thing. So that would have been cool. We know that the Amazing Spider-Man 3 movie, whatever that would have ended up being, they were setting up for a Sinister Six movie. You guys, we have been setting up, and when I say we, I mean Sony. Sony's been setting up a Sinister Six movie for a very long time. Sinister Six has been in the works for a very, very long time now, and we've still never seen it. It's possible that now Sony has kind of watched what the MCU has done, and they've kind of cracked the code as to what a Sinister Six movie might be. In making individual character films. I think that's the way to do it. And I think that's how they're going to do it. I think that's how it's going to be successful. They're going to do a massive team-up movie after having all of these individual films being made. Looks like Venom, essentially, ostensibly, is going to be the Iron Man figure of these villainous Sinister Six movies. I think it's genius. I think it's genius. Anyway, guys. We've talked, or rather I've spoken at length about my thoughts about the Spider-Man 4 film that never happened, some of the background, some of my thoughts, like where we're at, what's going on with this. Yeah, all of that is to say, you know, I'm sure that this discussion is going to continue on in the comment section. I'm vaguely looking, keeping my eye on the comment section right now. There's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot to talk about. Anyway, guys, I want to hear what your thoughts are about the canceled Spider-Man 4 movie that never happened. I'm less curious about that and more curious about the Tim Burton Superman film that never happened, starring Nicolas Cage. That would have been wackadoo. And I would have loved to have seen it. Anyway, guys, I want to know what your thoughts are about canceled Spider-Man 4. I know, like, this is over a decade later. Why are we talking about this now? Well, we have Spider-Man No Way Home coming out. And again, like I say, Spider-Man No Way Home, we would not have had Tom Holland as Spider-Man in the MCU if it weren't for this particular portion of the butterfly effect. But what are your thoughts? Jump on down in the comment section below and let me know.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you like this video, click like. If you really like this video, click subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, click share. Because that is exactly what Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles would want you to do. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.